This looks like my last podcast from the city of Austin. It's early morning. It's not early morning. It's mid-morning here at Austin. I'm looking outside my hotel room. I'm gonna do a little flip of the camera so everybody can see. That's what it was like right there on 98, 95, right next to the Whataburger. That's really cool, right? What did we learn on our trip? We learned that this is a nice hotel. Good folks so far. But I haven't checked out yet or taken my shower yet to leave. But maybe I could help them by fixing their clock. It is 9:31, right? All right, I helped them. They helped me, I helped them. All right, now, other things we learned. I noticed that, and I understand why they have to draw people. The big thing that it looks like in some of these independent films is a lot of gore because they know that they're not going to get anywhere with using sexual things. So there's a lot of gore in some of these films, which is all right for film, especially like female directors who haven't been really much allowed in that genre. So that's cool. Austin's a cool city, a lot of diversity, both what you would want and some things you might not want, but they're there. It's a dichotomy here with the very not right wing, whatever MAGA is, state government. Hopefully that will change. Here in this state, I went down, couldn't park down there where the Democratic place was. They probably don't want a lot of people coming by and causing trouble. But there's hope for being able to swing this state as far as the Senate is concerned. Here to swing it blue with the Tanarico, is that his name? Tanarico? Fella running for Senate. That would be cool. All the films are pretty good. The things you learn about film is AI is something that if you use it as a tool for effects that you can't afford, but they are true to the story, and they just are your actual ideas. And I don't see it as big of a problem as other people. Steven Spielberg can buy an airport and film jets leaving the airport. But if I had to do something like that in a film, I might need to use AI, but as long as I make it my ideas. And as sparingly as possible, because Bob Odenkirk talked about how no matter how good some kind of computer could make your story or your film, part of the story has to come from the storyteller themselves. And I believe that. It has to be a human being telling the story. As far as the special effects tools, well, there's a big thing that I remember when filmmaking people were angry that digital was taking over. They had a moral problem with it. Now, if you can just use it as a tool and not a master, and you can use it with honesty, this AI stuff, and you can make sure that they're your ideas, and only sparingly, because you can get sucked into how easy it makes things, then that's good. But if don't make the story yourself, make the characters from your heart, make the meanings of your films and your novels. I mean, who am I to give this kind of a lecture? But so anywho, Austin, treat treat the late night Baltimore crew well. Alphonse, Alexandra, Alfredo, Osmato, our assistants, were also outstanding and deserve thanks. The Academy deserves thanks because thanks to the Academy putting on their Oscars, a very kind and beautiful woman was allowing us to eat at some high classy joint up in uh, in the city on the night of the Oscars. Uh, Bob Odenkirk, Steven Spielberg, Larry David, and Riz Ahmed all came across as what you would 100% of what you would expect. Hey, Sarah Schaffer. Hey, Fire Head. How's it going, y'all? Thanks for tuning in. This is my final project. What I'm trying to do is get my luggage from two things to one. And then I think I will have accomplished a great deal. Last night I went out into the outer parts of Austin to do some exploring, and it was not wholly successful because gets dark out there, and a lot of you know places you don't know. It's hard to drive around in the dark, especially if you're in a rented car and you're kind of have to be worried about what happens. So somebody already bumped the car from the back, so it's their fault. But that already happened, and so you get a little paranoid. But it's a beautiful city. The roads are incredible. They allow you to make a lot of mistakes in your turns. Like, you don't drive 20 miles to get to the next place to turn out. And the roads are really very beautiful, and the bridges are as well. All right, then. Let's see, on filmmaking, tried to write down all my ideas. I know I got to work on a retrieval system, which means gets my ideas faster. Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus does love me. This I know, and it isn't because the Bible tells me so. It's because I know. And I got my cross out here somewhere. My greatest creative achievement while here may have been how I'm going to take two bags and conflate it into one bag, because the airline I'm going back to Baltimore is a little less generous about how much you can take on without getting charged a lot. So the film Normal, that was the big screening here, that had Bob Odenkirk and the creators of the John Wick series, and it looks, I mean, apparently they're going to try to make Normal a franchise. I don't want to give too much away, but sequels got to be in the works. Only because at the end the filmmakers came out, and all good folk, seemingly good folks, well-intended folks, respectful folks. Bob Odenkirk all suggested that they had so much fun, or so much enjoyment making the film, that they want to stay together, the crew, and try to see if they can get another one. But that's not going to reveal much about this film that you don't already know. Bob Odenkirk also gave some creative idea. One thing he said was, when you do a screenplay, focus on the first 25 pages because long acts are underrated. You think of the great films, and long acts, first acts are fine to have. And um, they really set things up, and that's what this film. There were a few continuity problems. I don't know when this movie is coming out. They have to do a little editing on the film normal, but it was a throwback. They did invoke a lot of older films, westerns. A movie like Bad Day at Black Rock, the Spencer Tracy movie. Uh, Even Bob Odenkirk referenced a movie. It was a very dark, weird movie. I remember seeing reruns of it or showings of it on TV a long time ago as a kid, and it was a very dark film. Uh, but he said the first act is good to have a long setup is important, and that you can invest in the characters, and then all the filmmakers place the importance not only having uh, keeping films as a communal experience, um, but making sure that people don't bring their house to the theater. Like one of the filmmakers, I think he was the effects fella. He was saying that um, sometimes he looks out into the movie theater and he sees somebody with like 5 laptops and headphones on while they're watching the movie. So they're not really part of any kind of community experience. But all the filmmakers talked about that and talked about AI as might be a wonderful servant for low independent filmmakers, but a horrible master. Other things, let's see. You got to keep creating films. And then somebody in the late night crew sent me a clip of a Harrison Ford speech about just how vital humans telling stories. That is something that always is going to be a part of us and always should be a part of us. And is a very vital thing for not only our existence, but thriving to be compassionate and good people and moral people, no matter what your religious beliefs, but your moral beliefs, your belief in principles and character and compassion and empathy. Those are all expressed quite well in film. Film and literature, film and the novel and the documentary are ways to express and experience these together. There were some other things. Steven Spielberg talked about the one scene in all his films, and he's made Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, and E.T., which that's another story. E.T. is when E.T. came out, and I was around. I was a kid, very small kid, but the hype was so overblown, and I was kind of still a Star Wars kid, and back then you kind of saw things as rivals, like I am E.T. I am from another planet. No, you saw things as rivals like Spider-Man and the Avengers, Marvel Comics. They were cool. DC was awful, boring. They even had back then, Uh, they even didn't even want to have anything. They kind of were at the time removing themselves from their DC was from their great characters of Superman and Batman, which were their two coolest characters. But so it was always Marvel Comics and Stan Lee, and for some reason it had to be a competition. And so with movies, Star Wars was great, and it's something I had to have allegiance to over some of the Steven Spielberg E.T. Also, I thought that the first Raiders of the Lost Ark was a little too strange. I don't know. I have to see it again. The great films, but then speaking of Harrison Ford, the guy who was Han Solo, and when he was in Star Wars, I remember watching him on a talk show. When he was in Star Wars, Mark Hamill said, "Hey, hey, hey, Harrison, how come in one scene just a second ago we were all wet, running around in garbage, and now we're completely like cleaned up?" And Harrison Ford said, and then Mark Hamill said, "Should we say something?" And Harrison Ford said, "Nah, it's not that kind of film, kid." So that was funny. Also, another funny thing is Bob Odenkirk was talking about the John Wick guys. They were talking about how like you can tell when the film was filmed because like a couple going to sleep. It was probably the first shot of the day because they seemed completely wide awake when they're about to go to sleep, and it's not anything like they're not like about. It's not like they're awake for romantic situations. They're like talking at the end of the day, but they seem wide awake. That was a good point. And sometimes he can tell when people have eaten and they look exhausted in scenes where they're supposed to be wide awake because you can tell that the scene must have been shot right after lunch or something. That was funny. And Steven Spielberg did talk a lot about a lot of his early films. There was a great deal of filming in continuity, not filming in when the shots come. Not filming so that to save money. Film something in the third act at first, or he said he would, especially in the early days, to keep the momentum and the sense of the film to everybody working on the film together in continuity and as the film would come across. Editing stuff. Larry David was talking about his Curb Your Enthusiasm, Seinfeld, and his next show, which is going to be a sketch comedy on American history. He said that at first they did Seinfeld, and then they did, okay, let's do a scaled down show. It's going to be, what did Larry do after Seinfeld? Then they wanted to do, then they considered what to do after Seinfeld, after Curb. What would Larry do now after he did Curb? And then instead of that, they decided this American sketch comedy would be good. And some of the segments they talked about were pretty funny. And it might be pretty good because I think one of the things they were talking about is that there are a lot of horrible times that you can't see the end of as far as our political and social situations, but it's all happened in the past, and we've also risen up and made great strides even under conditions that, if we remember, were incredibly. I mean, we didn't have fascism on the rise as much as this now, but we did enslave people. Um, okay, so let's see what else. And we rose. And then at the end, the last day, I had the LBJ Museum, focusing a lot on the work of civil rights and the incredible achievements made with the idea of helping others, humans helping others. All right, that's it. What can I think of? I hear like the housekeepers in the background might be wanting to come in. I need to take a shower, get on the road. So it's going to be a goodbye to Austin, and I would say that thank you, everybody. Like and subscribe. Um, make Texas blue if you can. Um, here's the thing I noticed about Bob Odenkirk. He's a very thin guy, but people tell it to me all the time, so I think I can use the term. He's no spring chicken, which is a weird thing to say, but you could tell by the way he was easily leaning over, bending his knees and moving while in awkward positions, moving around to different fans at the stage at the film, after the film. Very like agile or athletic, or in very good shape, very flexible. So that's cool. He Bob Odenkirk really loved the part about the fist fighting, like he did in the movies Nobody. So this film was filmed because this is the same crew that did Nobody 2, which I don't want to say it against these guys. These great guys. Now that I kind of met them, Nobody 2 was horrible. But right after they finished that, they were just stayed where they were. And it's set in Minnesota, but you can tell that they wanted to avoid the Minnesota accent, because they didn't want it to make it look like Fargo. So I noticed that. So Bob Odenkirk talked about movies like, he talked about very strange. He said that he could not get work, like he could not get filmmaking projects, even after the success of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. The guys who made those decisions didn't think that he would be good for major releases. And the guy is just like the greatest guy, very genuine, but also like a funny guy who is always on your side, always on the underdog side in all his roles. And so Riz Ahmed is doing a film called Bait. Riz Ahmed is British, and I didn't know. He's Pakistani, but he's British. I guess he grew up in Britain. It was like when I heard Idris Elba talk after playing Stringer Bell on The Wire in Baltimore, and I didn't know he was from Britain. He went from like Stringer Bell, like, well, what we got to do is we got to wait some time, and then we're going to call the brother up in New York, Brother Mazzone. He's coming down here. Oh, you sending the brother? Well, why didn't you say so? Until hello, old chap. Oh, I certainly did enjoy making this film. And you're hearing it, and it's kind of hilarious to me. But Steven Spielberg talked about that his favorite film as a kid, guy that made him want to be in films, was David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia. and he watches it with some of his kids and I guess his grandkids now once a year or so. He says he still notices like the weirdest little mistakes that only somebody in film, like he thinks he saw a gum wrapper from back then lying on the desert floor, and that was a funny anecdote. But all right, I had other ideas. I can't really think of them now. You know, we got to keep fighting. All keep resisting. If you're not resisting, you're assisting. I got to go deal with this car situation, and I'm going to be flying back. Long layovers, but I hope it all goes well. Say a prayer for your late night Baltimore crew, and we will talk to y'all next time. But we want to thank our Austin people, Alfonso, Alfredo, Alexander, Blues, Olorster, Johnson, Whitey Balls, they call it now. Whitey, no. Alex will be more into the podcast because he adds both humor and a very compassionate view of people who are dealing with things such as trauma and mental health issues. Not that these are his issues, I don't know, but I'm saying like he just has a good heart for that sort of thing and a good sense about it, helping others, especially people who are really desperately in need of help, who can't find it anywhere else. But he keeps a great sense of humor, and so we got to write these bits, Alex, so we can present them. I'll tell you one thing about old Al. He's fun. He's way better than any other comics we saw. But Bill Burr. I mean, Bill Burr's kind of cool in some ways, but the same old hackneyed. People offended by some words. People aren't offended. I think everybody's past all that shit. And the people who probably aren't going to be at his show. Eric Andre, he was cool. His podcasts are good. He has really, except for Bill Burr, they all had a great presence about them. All the performers, not in Eric Andre's bombing podcast. There was a lady co-host and she was quite good, but the other comics were, I don't know, it had kind of a Kill Tony feel about it, even though that's not what they were going for. And it's not my thing. I remember what's this the fellow's name? Artie Lang said one time, like, every time he is like goes to a comedy club and he's working and somebody's ahead of him, they always walk up to him and ask for his opinion, would ask for his opinion of their act, and he would always, look, man, I've seen so many, unless you're going to set yourself on fire, I'm not even going to notice it. Please don't set yourself on fire so I notice it. But, I've seen it all. There's not much that we're going to see at a comedy, that he hasn't seen, at least some aspect of it. Let's see, anything else? No, I hope it's not a difficult journey back into Baltimore. I know there's a lot going on in the world. Talked to Fez last night, and he gave me an update on sports. Apparently, the Ravens miffed on or were hosed with Crosby coming, Max Crosby, because Max Crosby apparently is still too injured to travel or to go to another team. He can't really be traded for 2 first-round picks. He's not really wouldn't pass the physical. All right, well, I'm getting back to my project, which is getting 2 bags into 1 bag, because the airline I'm going into now is charging by the bag, and um, here's a real bit that happened. That was funny. I think I don't know if I can tell it well here, but uh, we thought we saw the guy from the Daily Show who goes around the MAGA rallies and talks to people. Jordan Klepper. We were sure it was Jordan Klepper. So someone in the film crew of Late Night Baltimore walked up to the person at my behest and said, "Hey, would you be Jordan Klepper?" And the guy really did look a lot like him. And the guy instead of saying no, I get that a lot, or the guy without breaking missing a beat says, "No, I'm actually Andrew Maringi," or something like that. Like he gave his real name, like. So you would think, so you work with Jordan, and we look you up, you'll be in the crew. But it was hilarious that the guy did. That was a hilarious situation. Maybe better seen by others, told by others. All right, that's all for now. Next time I will speak to you, it will be in Baltimore. I'll give one last look over here at my boat, my lair, as it were. Look outside into Austin for one last time. See I-35 flying around, meaning I better get my ass in gear. All right, everybody. Remember, if you're not resisting, you are assisting, and also F MAGA. It doesn't sound too good, and I'm glad I'm not driving back to Baltimore, because I'm just hearing about gas prices that are insane. I thought that was the whole purpose of the bringing Mr. MAGA back, but because of them damn gas prices, I guess you can't believe that. All right, like and subscribe, everybody. Comment, feedback, anything. Keep fighting the fight, and we're gonna keep trying to make a better podcast. Okay, I'm gonna be like, remember when Joey wore everything that all of Chandler's clothes from Friends as a way to get revenge for Chandler hiding Joey's underwear? And